All right, let's get this party started. What's going on, everybody? Today we want to jump right in, drilling, explaining, illuminating, simplifying the July the 1st through the 4th special, as well as a continuation of what we've been talking about, which is obsession. You got to be, in order to be successful, you have to be, what we call obsessed. Obsessed simply means that there is some type of a intrusive thought. Today we want to really delve into the identity to income aspect of the 5 pillars. So today we're really focusing on the energy, the entrepreneurial energy, which is the E for the s.p.a.c.e program or space. And the reason why the E component is so important because when it comes to the monetization of your own individualization, it is determined by your identity. And more important, or just as important, is understand that identity stabilization creates nervous system regulation. And that nervous system regulation creates income amplification or manifestation. So as you can see that, when we look at the identity stabilization, we start with the deconstruction of the false self. So that's the starting point. By deconstructing the false self, and you know that the way that you stop or destroy something is when you start or you amplify something. And so through this 90-day protocol, which is a part of, the goal is for you to take advantage of the 50% off 2 payments of the $1,250 or whatever, half of $2,500. And this is already included in that. But if you just want to, for whatever reasons, you don't want to take the entire enchilada, you just want to focus on one pillar. That's the economic component. Well, this is a 90-day protocol that is based upon the results from your individual diagnostic test. So no two are the same. And the beauty of this protocol is it takes your diagnostic results and it creates a 90-day step-by-step program that goes in depth into the nervous system regulation. So the most important component is because the only reason that we're not connected is because we're nervous. We don't have, crystal clear clarity. That creates this feeling. And that feeling creates the field. And that field creates what is real. So we've got to address the feeling. But then that requires us to deconstruct our current thought process. So that simply means that there is a frequency. There's a wave. That's a verb. That's a vibration that is interrupting. It's an interference pattern. So what we're doing is we're going into the psychology of your theology. That is the story that you are telling yourself every day. There is a story that you tell yourself. So it's all about recognizing that story and that pattern, interrupting that story or that pattern, engineering a new story or a new pattern, and then implementing that new story or that new pattern. So that now you have a new life-sustaining pattern. So this is all about patterns, because patterns are power, which is just another word for belief systems. So the whole system, and as again, I'm going to go through some of the systems that's included inside of the workbook, so that way you have a really good, clear over, under, and understanding of the let's use the word power for lack of a better term, that's inside of the system. That's inside of the workbook. Again, this is extremely, 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 extremely powerful. When you really tap into and you really see let's use the word benefit of the system. And that is, again, we're only talking about one aspect of the system. Because, again, the system is composed of 5 components, but we're looking at one of the most important components because there is the entrepreneurial aspect of the identity, because the identity really is the core issue. Because at the base and at the core, everybody has the same issue. We are identifying with the frequency. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just not source. So we got to elevate our frequency. We got to elevate how we identify. Okay, that sounds good. Okay, how do we elevate how we identify? Well, you start with by identifying where you are at now. Right now, you have an ID. That ID that you have is not the vibrational equivalent of source. That's all we're saying. And so, identity stabilization is the number one key. Because without stabilizing the ID, without examining the current identification, whatever it is, however you see yourself, that story that you're telling yourself is not a benevolent story from the perspective of it is not the story, it is simply a story. And that story that you're telling yourself, again, is not the, it's a. So what we're doing is we're just going to replace the story with a story that's a better or higher vibration. And I remember as we go through this step-by-step process, the goal is to pick it up as only, 99 versus the 199. Again, if you enroll in the program, then all of this is already included. Normally it's just for 5Ks on sale for 2.5. So regardless of how you get exposed to this system, it is of the utmost importance that we really, really, really over and understand that everything is determined, how high you fly is determined by your identity. Your identity must be stabilized. That creates the nervous system that is regulated. Once that nervous system is regulated, then the income is amplified. So everybody focuses on the amplification of the income, which is why it doesn't work. Because the amplification of the income is a byproduct of the regulation of the nervous system. And everybody has a nervous system that needs regulated because the nervous system is being influenced by an unrealistic expectation. 99.99% of the time, the nervous system has been regulated. It's given impacted by a unrealistic expectation. Let me switch my mics over real quick so I can actually get down with the nitty gritty. Bear with me 1 second. Let me switch this over. Switching. All right. So let me check in the audio. And the audio sounds pretty good. All right. So hopefully everybody can still hear me. Okay. I just switched over the audio so we can really delve into the background behind by pulling up some of the documents that's going to be this is what utilized or needed. The first thing right off the bat is the nervous system architecture for business. So the science and the spirituality of the nervous system regulation, again, that's week number 2 of the program. And the reason why this is so important is because when we go through this, and I'm going to play or allow the system to read something for you here in just a second to help you with over an understanding that at the base and at the core, like I said at the beginning of today's message, there is a covenant ID. That's the sacred map that allows you to intersect or interact with the economic reality that you are authorized to inhabit. There is an economic reality that you are authorized to inhabit based upon your God-given design. That's why this is so imperative. Because no one can be you but you. There is no one else on the planet that can be you but you. And so when you get to that state, that creates and that affects the automatic nervous system. So that way the decisions that you are making that help to determine the quality of your reality those choices and those decisions are in line with your God-given design. So only thing that we're doing is we are inhabiting or we are creating a convergence of the identity architecture, the nervous system regulation, and the income activation. That's your spiritual alignment. And through the spiritual alignment, you're able to bring forth from the invisible realm aspects of the things that you want to manifest. You're able to bring those into the physical realm. And that's the only thing that we're doing. We are bringing the things that you see in the invisible realm into the spiritual realm. So every financial result is a result of establishing sovereignty with your identity, because that is the fundamental building block or building block of this reality. So when you tap into the fundamental building blocks of this reality, that is identity architecture. That is the space identity architecture. That is how the soul, the purpose, the alignment, the consciousness creates the expression, which is the function of the operating system beneath the threshold of your awareness. That's why this is so powerful. It is so powerful because it functions beneath the threshold of your awareness. It's part of the automatic nervous system. It just automatically functions according to the nervous system. That's the covenant ID that is anchored in a sense of self-awareness, which creates a consistency in order to earn, in order to serve, in order to sustain. So all we're talking about is identity to income protocol. Again, it's a part of the entire 6-month program. But if for the people that are not interested or believe they're not in a position because of the physical reality. So the physical reality tells you that you're not in a position because it's self-evident. But the spiritual reality doesn't work the way the physical reality. So until you get to a place where your spiritual reality, belief system, overrides the physical reality, evidence, there's no change. So the whole purpose of the program is to create identity to income instead of work to income. We're shifting. We know faith without works is dead. But without faith, it's impossible. So we start with faith. Your covenant identification is tied into your God-given identity. Once you establish that identity, everything changes. The whole world changes. Because now you're identifying as an individual expression of God. So your identity has to shift. So the Space Academy entrepreneurial pillar is what we're focusing on, which is the last part of the s.p.a.c.e. system. All we're doing is focusing on the internal work. We're focusing on the economic piece. So that way you can actually integrate. Because for a lot of people, the economic component is the one that's, let's say, it's the most important. But the economic component is tied into the nervous system component. So there is no income amplification without no nervous system regulation. But there is no nervous system regulation unless there is some type of a spiritual identification. So we got a conundrum. And the conundrum is we're focusing on income amplification, as we should. But there is no income amplification. There is no income amplification without nervous system regulation. Okay? How do I'm nervous. What am I nervous about? Well, I got more bills than I got money. Okay? How do we balance that? What is your ID? Okay? I cannot establish my identification because I'm so nervous. And I'm so nervous it's affecting my income. So I gotta figure out how can I establish and control my nerves. Because I'm looking at reality. I live in reality, bro. This is the real world. Like, you don't understand. Things are happening. See, we are limiting how source code directs us. I can only tell you, and this is very important, based upon my experiences. And in my experiences, for example, I was in this, and this is the God's honest truth, this has happened to me multiple times. So I was in granted, I was in a veteran, but right before Trump came in office, veterans, I was in a program through my mortgage company where basically the mortgage was paid for an entire year. So I paid nothing just because I was a veteran. Now let me let that sink in. Now, same thing happened, and there is a plethora. Like when I worked for this company called Family Endeavors, we took homeless people off the street. They set them up in an apartment, paid their rent for 3 months. There's a program I know I just did. I don't know how, now each state is different. There was a young lady who was living with us, who had a child, husband was gone. There was a program through Red Cross where set her up for 6 months. Now, I'm not saying that we should depend upon the government. What I am saying, however, is there is more than one way to skin a cat. If you do not open yourself up to different opportunities, what happens is you live in an environment where your assets become liability. Everything that you purchase, everything that you are, remember, we're talking about identity. We have to identify with the Ethiopian Christ. We got to identify so that we have the right to get paid because we are a child of the King. So once you establish the right to get paid, what does that mean, though? Well, that means context. What is context? See, when you're taking advice from anybody, me or anyone else, you have to consider the context of what I'm saying. Now, the context is not the content. The content is great, but the context is the overall condition that allows me to experience a financial result. Now, are your conditions that you are in similar to the conditions that I was in at the time I experienced growth? So I'm just like most people now, especially if you're a melanated person, okay, we got the same context. If you're not a melanated person, but a lot of European and what we call non, whether it's Asian, whether it's Hispanic, come from a similar Judeo-Christian and or economically disadvantaged or economically disenfranchised environment. Okay, we got that in common. Okay, were you born with a silver spoon in your mouth? Were you born with generational wealth? Were you taught how to read the Wall Street Journal when you was 5, 6, 7, 8? Did you buy stocks? Did you have a father in the home 24/7, 365? Did you have a mother in the home 24/7, 365? So notice the context that I'm coming from. So if you notice the people that listen to my shows, that take my advice, we got similar context. The people that don't, they disconnect. Why? They're like, man, this nigga don't know what he's talking about. I come from the generational wealth. I ain't never had to work. You know, my mama, man, I was raised, we didn't have no running water, no electricity. I was raised in, with a bunch of religious nut jobs. So can you relate to what I'm saying? So if the context is similar, if the conditions that allow me to experience success, the failure to take into account the context is why most people take advice. People don't listen to TikTok gurus. Now, Tony Robbins, for example, no disrespect. They say my boy Billy Carson. Again, no disrespect. I don't know too much about their environment. I don't know how they was raised. I don't know about their culture. So I would investigate. So I really wouldn't take advice from them because I really don't know them. So you shouldn't take advice from gurus that you really don't know because the context by which they achieved their success may be different from the context and the experience that you have. Now, I've been homeless 8 times. Each time I was homeless, like this last time again, really the last time, because it was, what some people call voluntary. What does it mean? Well, I had a home, I had houses, and I packed my shit and I left. And I moved out. Situation didn't work. So I came back to the city that I'm in right now, and I had to start over from scratch. So what did I do? Well, I went down to the local veterans, the VA. I said, I'm a veteran, and I don't have a place to stay. So they said, hey, well, we got a program. Oh, okay. Well, what is the program? So the first thing that I do is I look to see, because remember, who prints money free? The government. So then I checked out when I was working, when I had my coffee shop, I was working with this company called Crosspoint. They had a contract with the government, the Bureau of Prisons. So I say, hey, I used to work in the prison system, and one thing that helped people in the prison system was having an outlet. So I have a open mic, spoken word. I do it every Friday, and the inmates need a release. So I started out doing it at the facility. Then I got a contract with the government. So I was getting paid. Then I got a contract. So I was getting money from the government to teach inmates how to find their identity. So the Dear Kinnear reports, I was getting paid. Then I got a contract with a company out of California that paid me $1 million a year to do talent assessment and acquisition. In the HR department, before they hired anybody, what did they do? I ran them their name and their numbers to see if they was a good fit. Where did I get my money from? Not from the customers. I got the money from the company. The company was paying me to do it. So a lot of times we don't have an issue. Same thing with my Corvette. When I had my vet, right after I decided, you know what, I paid cash for it. Then I decided to, you know what, it's just sitting there. I wasn't really driving it because I'm not going to drive around $100,000 car. Let somebody tear it up. I would drive it once a week. Now, knowing what I know now, right after I did, because remember, if you buy anything, make sure that whatever you buy can be used as an asset. It makes money. Like my home, I can use that as an asset. Car, I can use that as an asset. There's a website called THRU, TOROS, where if you have a high-end vehicle, you can rent it out for a day. On average, as I found out, $1,000. Okay, so that means 2-3 days of renting it out. Bam, it covers the cost, so the car pays for itself. So what is the point? The point is we all have to identify with a different way of thinking. We have to think in a way that we are assets, not liabilities. So you don't see yourself as an asset. I didn't either. That's why I would have never gotten rid of my vet if I saw it as an asset. I just noticed I was paying, $700 a month just for insurance. I just know that one tire, I had to replace the rim in the tire, $20,000 for a tire. You know what the tune-up is on the vet? So I noticed the amount of funds that I was spending monthly just for a car that was sitting in my garage. And it wasn't generating no income. How come that vet wasn't generating income? Because I was too stupid to think outside the box. And I saw it as a liability. Right now, you see your life and your situation as a liability because you're not thinking like a god or a goddess. It is not your fault. We were not trained to think like gods and goddesses. We were trained to think like peasants because that's what most of us they see. There's priests and then there's peasants. So most of us are not part of the priestly class. So those are the reverends, the doctors, and the bishops. Those are the people that the Bible talks about in Matthew 23 that Jesus didn't like. Jesus did not like his woe unto you scribes and Pharisees. He says it 7 times or 8 times. You should read Matthew 23. It will destroy your theology. So, Nico, you ain't a peasant. You're a priest. You're made in the image and likeness of the Most High. You are an ambassador of Christ. But the problem is we don't see ourselves that way. So that's the smoking gun. There is no such thing as a problem because God don't have a problem. Since you are a god or a goddess, you can have one either. But we do because we fail to identify with the hero's journey. Now, inside the program, for example, day one starts with a morning practice. Some call it ritual. Some call it prayer. Some call it meditation. Then there's an evening reflection. Then there's a nervous system regulation. And you do that. For example, you talk about the stating a covenant affirmation. I call it an anchor statement. Do you have an anchor statement? Most people don't know what an anchor statement is. But it's based upon your numbers. And you got an identity declaration that you got to make. And you got a scripture-informed meditation that you go through. Then you got what is called a covenant affirmation. Then you have a voice activation protocol. Do you know what a voice activation protocol is? So most people see the tone in your voice determines the speed of your choice. So when you speak, you don't speak as one having authority, so it takes a long time for the shiznets to manifest in your life. Now, again, that is not your fault. Nobody that I've bumped into on the planet so far has this level of awareness or understanding because I didn't even have it either. That's why I created the system. And it takes, as most people know by now, it takes 21 days to rewrite the neurological network in the brain. Now, I got to say that really, really slowly because most people don't understand identity stabilization. It takes based upon all of the neuroscience on the planet, 21 days to rewrite, to take a bad habit and turn it into a good habit. It takes another 21 days to turn a good habit into a lifestyle. Then it takes another 21 days to turn the good habit and the lifestyle into a destiny or a dear career. So 21 plus 21 plus 21. What do we got? We got 63. So that's why if you notice, go back to all of my stuff, I have nothing on the market that's under 63 days. Because I understand neuroscience. They don't teach this at Harvard, Yale, Preston, and Brown, and no historically black college. Okay, I'm just saying. They probably do. But what's the point? The point is, boo-boo, they surely don't teach it at Ebenezer Baptist, which is where you probably go. I mean, not you personally, you know. So what is the problem? Well, the problem is we do not know how to establish what is called a complete covenant ID. Why? It doesn't stick. You start, but you notice, I started this because I noticed that I did not have consistency. And there was no reverend, no doctor, or no bishop that could assist me with establishing consistency. Because most people, and it's crazy because, you have to be very, very careful of where you get your advice from and who you talk to because everybody's different. Because everybody sees the world the way that they are, not the way that you are. So now you're fearfully and wonderfully made. You are wired differently. That's why you really can't get advice from nobody except God. Not even me. Because people are going to tell you how they got, but the way I got it is going to be different from the way you got it because my nervous system, my identity that stabilized my nervous system to create the income amplification, totally different from your nervous system. How you stabilize your nervous system and how you establish your identification is totally different from me. That's why this and all of the 5 pillars are based upon the diagnostic test or the results of you because it's based upon your own individuality. Now, I have something called key performance indicators inside of the system because of the science, the neuroscience of the nervous system regulation in order for it to bring about a transformative state where your automatic or your atomic nervous system and the CNS or the central nervous system is actually impacted by, again, the dorsal vagal nerve. So the dorsal vagal nerve, some people call it the ventral vagal nerve. So until your nerves, and this was all pioneered by Dr. Stephen Boyd. You can research Dr. Stephen, P as in Paul, O as in ocean, R as in Romeo, G as in golf, E as in echo, S as in Sam. He created this entire system that scans and shows how you scan for safety and threat. And it activates the dorsal vagal nerve. It's called dorsal vagal nerve collapse. I wrote that book. If you don't got it, I'll send it to you for free. Right now, your dorsal vagal nerve has collapsed. So the ventral vagal state that regulates safety and the capability of thinking outside of the box, thinking inside of the box, thinking without a box. Your creativity, your connectivity, your confidence has been reduced. So you cannot think because the dorsal vagal nerve has collapsed. So when you are in that state, you have tunnel vision. And once you are in tunnel vision, remember, none of this is really technically your fault. Now, let me make sure we all understand. It is totally normal for you to feel the way that you feel. Come on, man. Let's be for real. We behind the eight ball if things are not working in your life. If, God forbid, like yesterday was a rough day because it's the 7th. I didn't really realize it was 7 years until I was talking with my other children that my daughter Shamura transitioned. June the 30th at 9 o'clock at night when I got the phone call saying, Dad, my oldest daughter screaming on the phone. She's gone, Dad, she's gone. Hey, what do you mean she's gone? What are you talking about? Dad, she's gone, Dad, she's gone. And my daughter was just screaming on the phone. She died in the bathtub. And it's interesting because my family and my children, they see that as dark. It's a dark day. I get it. You got a choice right now. It's either dark or what the shit that you got going on in your life. It's dark. I know it's dark. But you got a choice. You can choose to see it as dark, or you can choose to see it as a mark. You can choose to see it as dark, or you can choose to see it as a mark. That's a mark. Every time that's a mark that gives me the spark. I got a mark. I got a bunch of marks. My mom died when I was 13. Mark. I got the shit beat out of me when I was a kid. Mark. My biological father didn't fucking want me. Mark. The nigga used to lock the door when I come home after school and he used to tell me. And I said, Dad, how come I don't have a key? But nigga over that, you don't got a key because we don't fucking want you here. 13. On the streets of my own. Mark. Since 13, I've been figuring it the fuck out on my own. Mark. So you can choose. It's either dark or it's either a mark. Choose you this day home you will serve. You get a choice today. You get to choose whether your life is dark or whether your life is light. And you're going to use the darkness. You're going to be, like the Bible says, you're going to be transferred. You're going to be translated out of darkness into the marvelous light. But it's a choice. You got to make that choice. No reverend, doctor, bishop, nobody's coming to save you, boo-boo. You don't figure this shit out for yourself. You on your own. Now, it's great if you got family and friends and all that stuff, but I didn't have that. Now, if you got it, that just means you got some additional encouragement. You got some additional, you should be thanking God for the fact that you have people in your life that see your worth and your value. Like, I didn't have that. But if you got it, that means that you are just further down the rabbit trail. But let me make sure you understand. Right now, you are in a situation, it is either dark or it is the mark that creates the spark for you to transfer out of darkness into the light. God never puts something on you, and every time he puts something on you, he always makes a way of escape. Find the door, bro. Find the door. It's there. You got to think in the box. You got to think outside of the box, or you got to think without the box. Either way, bro, Either way, sis, you got to do some thinking. So this is an entirely protocol that is personalized just for you. It is what I call a spirit-led, purpose-driven system that is faith-based because it's based upon science and spirituality. It has what I call action potential because that's what you got. You got unlimited potential. You're only limited by your own mindset. And so it is actionable and it is practical. Because what we're doing is we're transforming your ID to the vibrational equivalent of source. So that way, ID controls your nervous system controls your income. And that three-step process, that's what I do. Every day I wake up and I have to remind myself, God's not giving me a spirit of fear. Okay? 2 Timothy 1:7, I think it is. Again, faith-based. Why? That's where I came from. So I'm not trying to change up my foundation. I'm not trying to go out and get, I could care less what other people think. Because guess what? It's done unto you as you think. Now, let me make sure you understand what I just said. It's done unto you as you think. So why would I go out and think another system because somebody else? What if if a Muslim come to me and say, "Man, Allah is God." Oh, that's awesome, dog. Allah is God for you. So I'm not going to do no research. Now, when I was young, dumb, and stupid, I would go out and waste time trying to establish an entirely new belief system. But why would you do that? Can you do that? Absolutely, boo-boo. But all I'm saying is why you trying to change your belief system in the middle of the fight. You got to go with what got you there. All I know is prayer works for me. The word of God cannot return void. It must accomplish that for which it was sent. So I know I don't have a problem from the perspective of being outside of the principles that I'm violating. What does that mean? That means that for whatever reason, there is a principle that I'm violating. Identity is the system. Nervous system regulation is the routine or the role. Income manifestation is the destination or the goal. Let me tell you the three-step process that's included inside of the protocol that is based upon your diagnostic system. Beverly sells for $199 on sale today through the 4th for $99. So for only $100, you get an entire 90-day protocol that is based upon the E inside of the acronym s.p.a.c.e. Y-E. Because everybody that I know, myself included, mine is just maintain. So in other words, for me, more is going out than coming in. So if you stay on that pathway, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out where that ends up at. So yours may be on the generator. Remember, you are a generator, G. You're an operator, O. And you are a director, D. G-O-D. That's you. Now, if you choose not to walk in your car, you choose not to walk in your power. If you choose not to read what it says in Psalms 82:6 and John 10:6, if I remember correctly. If you choose not, I mean, that's a principle. Now, if you choose not to live your life according to God's principles, again, whatever you sow, that's what you reap. The scripture says that some word falls on good ground, some word it falls on stony ground, some word don't even hit the ground. The birds capture it in the air. So the question is, which one are you? So remember, there is no more of a mediator between God and man except the Son. So you don't need me, no reverend, doctors, bishops, whatever. Now, all those people are great. Don't get it twisted. But do you need brother? Do you need sister? Absolutely not. You have already been given everything that you need. Now, that's the principle. Now, if you choose to violate that principle, say, well, brother, not me, my brother. I don't know how to figure it out, brother. I need. And so you're sitting around here feeling sorry for, not you personally, feeling sorry for yourself because you're waiting for somebody. Now, again, don't take it the wrong way. Now, I'm not saying that. How do you think God's going to help you? You're going to send people like me. So God uses other people. So keep your eyes open. Make sure your ears are unplugged so when source code sends you the person, the place, or the thing, you assimilate it. You implement it in your life. That's all. So when you establish a spiritual ID, when you establish your new identity, now you see the field. An ID is simply means you have discernment. That's really all it means. When you establish a true God, a true spiritual ID, along with the program I'm sending you also for $99 my book. The book is $199 by itself. My new book entitled The Spiritual Entrepreneur or The Entrepreneurial Spirit. So inside of the book, Entrepreneurial Spirit is all of the informing or information that assists you with establishing the right ruling disposition. So spirit is nothing but the operating system or the way that you think. Notice the words I'm saying. Notice my operating system. So my operating system is different from most of our operating systems. So my operating system is always positive. It's always, the glass is always half full. It's always energetic. It's always upbeat. It's always no weapon formed against me can prosper. My operating system is based upon God's principle. It's not based upon my condition. Damn. Somebody should write that down. My operating system is not based upon my physical condition. My operating system is not based upon my physical reality. My operating system is not based upon where I'm at physically in this 3D reality. My operating system is where God is at spiritually. Because I've been translated out of darkness into his marvelous light. Why? That's in the book. And since God honors the book above the name, so you walking around praying in the name of Jesus, that's awesome, bro. Don't get me wrong, keep doing it. But you might want to keep the principles of Jesus in addition to keeping the name of Yahushua the HaMashiach. And it has to be the right one because there's a bunch of them. You might got the wrong Jesus, homie. So people, the devil is not stupid. He wants you to throw out the baby with the bath water. I'm gonna interject just enough truth to get you to doubt the truth. So I'm gonna take out just enough of the books to get you to doubt the book. Because if you read the Ethiopian book, Bible versus 1611 King James, bruh, you're gonna realize that, man, after Jesus came back, there's a whole nother resurrection story that's out in the Bible. What? Yeah, preachers don't preach that, bro. Your preacher can't preach it because it's not inside the standard King James. I know why it's not in the King James, because it primarily affects melanated people. That's why most Negroes are mother beep slaves. Your ass is a slave mentally now, Negro. It's in your brain. You got a bunch of I can't, doc. Well, brother, the white man got his foot on my neck. Really? I ain't saying that he does. I ain't saying that he doesn't. I'm just saying that I'm above the white man, the blue man, the green man. Any man's foot can't be on my neck because my neck is not in the place where his foot can be placed. My neck is above. It's above my sister. So when you walk through the valley of shadow of death, you feel no evil. Why? God's not giving you a spirit of fear. He gave you a spirit of love, power, and a sound mind. So you cannot be mental. You can have none of the stuff that you claim you got. Not you personally, but you know. Why? Because the principle said that God has given you a sound mind, bruh. No reverend, no doctor, no bishop, no pills, no this, no that. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't take them. I ain't saying you should go to your little repo, your little rapist, another 30% of the time. I get it, bruh. Do you? But when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, you got to elevate and you got to change your identity. You must identify as an individual expression of God on earth. That is number one. And unfortunately, for most of us, we cannot do that because nobody identifies as God. Everybody worships God, but nobody can be God. Ooh, somebody should write that down. How come you can't be God? You know, I know, we all know. Well, brother, I can, no, but I'm a worthless sinner, brother. You know, I'm not perfect. I'm not this, that, and another. Of course you're not. Did you read Romans chapter 7, chapter 8? So I wrote a whole book, I Am Too Human, to destroy your beliefs. Not yours personally, but people that you know. So how do you think I know what I'm talking about? You know, I didn't read that in a book. This is my real life. Man, I was suicidal from 13 until probably 26, 20, almost 30. It's the grace of God I'm still here. I want to put a bullet in my own head. That demon's still hanging around. You think he gone? He ain't gone, Brother Greenwood. He's still there. And every once in a while he come back. Hey, you know what? Might be easy just going on the exit stage level. That frequency is still here, Brother George. I just override it. I replace it. That's why I'm teaching you how to do the same thing that I do every single day. There's not a day go by where I don't sit around saying that. Like everybody else would be like, man, why is life so hard? People look at me and say, what the heck you got? What kind of problems you got, brother? Your life is good. Yeah, but you wasn't with me when it wasn't. So all them demons, they still here. Everything that happened to me when I was 6, still in my brain. I still got the memes and the memories of getting fondled as a kid. I still got the memories of getting beat with a bat. I still got the memories of going without food for 7 days as a kid. Now for an adult, okay, man. But for a child, I still got the memories of sleep deprivation. I still got the memories of walking around in circles at night. It was freezing cold. And every time I fall asleep, I got hit on the back with a freaking extension cord. I still got the memories of getting punched in the chest by my own father. I still got the memories of sleeping on the floor next to a prostitute male and a female prostitute engaging in sexual activities. I'm in there. You ever see 2 grown men? You're a kid and you're watching 2 grown men. You know what that does to your identity? Come on, man. So people see where I'm at right now and they just think, oh, they're new over there. So you don't know what you're talking about. Man, bruh. If you don't know my story, then you don't know my glory. You ain't supposed to, though. Let's keep it real. They're not supposed to. But you're supposed to know your story. You are supposed to know your story. No story, no glory. 99.99% of the Negroes I know, they are ashamed of their story. Because their story still has an emotional effect on their CNS and their ANS. I can talk about the dark side of my story because, as I said at the beginning of the show, darkness is a mark that activates the spark to translate me out of darkness into the marvelous light. Nigga, that's how I got here. That's how I stay here. So yes, yesterday was the 7th anniversary that my 19-year-old daughter died. For most Negroes, they try to not talk about it. They don't bring it up. They would damn sure they ain't gonna post it on Facebook or in public because they are still emotionally attached to the dark. They go, I'm attached to the spark. So you can fuck around in the dark all you want. I'm over hanging out with the off spark. I'm hanging out with the pleroma and the mother beat THRU. That's my identity. So no, nigga, I'm not the average mother. Don't pardon my French. Why? Because Negroes are wasting too much time playing around in the dark. Nigga, there is no dark. We've been translated out of darkness into the light. So you take your dark, turn it into the mark that activates the spark. And every day is a holiday. Whether you are hungry or your belly is full. Whether you're driving a Bentley or taking a bus. Whether you're living in a mansion or you living out in a tent in the freaking woods off the grid. No matter where you are at, that shit's temporary, bruh. You just passing through. You're going from glory to glory to glory, but you must be able to see God in your story. Right where you are, bloom where you planted. There's always a ram in the bush. God never puts more on you than you can bear. And he always makes a way of escape. Nigga, you just need to keep your eyes open and find the door and exit stage left. And no, nobody's going to come up the door for you. You got to open for yourself. Why? Because you're an individual expression of God on earth. So once you open and understand that this protocol is so in depth, and I suppose I've been going to it, but I got off track. But it comes with daily, every day for the next 90 days. There's no guesswork. All you got to do is just follow the script, and it's individualized based upon your own signature to bring about the transformation promised when you took the space quiz. And based upon that quiz, based upon the results, it creates the covenant identity worksheet that contains the personal mission and how to formulate your anchor statement or your personal mission statement, how to establish your own personal CNS, ANS regulation protocol. Because remember, as I said at the beginning of today's message, I don't care where you are, I don't care what you do, at the base and at the core of every Tom, Dick, and Harry, it is still the same. If there is no emotional regulation, you are going to be operating in toxic shame, and you're going to experience emotional drain. If there is no emotional regulation, you're going to feel. Because you know you're a god and a goddess, but you're not acting like one. You're not living right and like one. You're a royal priest. You're a holy nation. You're a joint heir. You know this. It's written in your DNA. Now, you may not personally know it, but trust me and believe me, your DNA knows it. Your ancestors know it. So they know that you're not self-identifying. You have the wrong self-concept. Your poor self-concept has been overwritten. Now, I know what you're saying. Same thing I'm saying, Doc. You don't understand. My current situation is so powerful that it's overriding my God-given destination. Overstand. Been there, done that. Which part of my struggle you want to talk about, bro? Which part? We could be in for days. So the only question is, as I said at the beginning, don't take advice from Mother Beak. That ain't been where you are. So go back to what I said at the beginning. What's the context? We got the content. But, Negro, what is the Mother Beak context? So you listen to T.D. Jakes and Crypto Dollar. Negro, them Negroes don't got your context. They don't got the same parameters. They don't got the same aspects. They didn't come from the same background. Most of them Negroes got generational wealth. Or they was born with a silver spoon. Or them Negroes ain't come from the bottom to the top. They ain't been through. They have not experienced. They ain't dealt with the same demons and devils that I've dealt with. So, yes, they don't give you a warm and fuzzy, easy believe message and tell you, hey, this is 3 steps to get to the top. You're going to believe them. And then you're going to implement those 3 steps, and guess what? That ain't going to work for you, bro. Why doesn't it work for you? Context. Taking advice from any coach and any guru when you have not considered the context of what they are saying, meaning that the overall conditions that allow them to experience that level of success, failure to take into account the context. People do that with Scripture. What was the environment that the Scripture was reading? What was the context? That is the one thing that most people fail to ask their guru. What was the context? What was the environment? What was the situation that you was in when you went through and you got off drugs? Or you went to, the Betty Ford Center and, paid $5,000 to go through and you got off drugs because you had top of the line, this, that, and the other. They had you hooked up with some IV, this, and blah, 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 and they were singing Kumbaya and all of this stuff. Do you got $5,000 and go to the Betty Ford Center? Okay? You can't listen to that guru because the way that he got off the drugs is different from the way that you're going to get off. So what I'm telling you is, how did I get to where I am? How do I maintain where I'm at? How do I overcome the negative habit patterns, the demons that they every day? Just yesterday was the 7th anniversary, as I said at the beginning of the show. And yesterday was a very, very beautiful, highlight day. I did the show, I did everything else. I never mentioned it. But all my children, my ex-wife, they talking about it. Because it's dark. But for me, it's a mark to continue to activate my spark so I can live inside the marvelous light. Because I've been translated out of darkness into the light. How did I do it? I took what the devil meant for evil, and I turned it around, and now I use it for good. How did I turn it around for good? Because I understand that energy cannot be destroyed. So I had to learn that at 13 when my mama died. Otherwise, I'd have been dead at 13. So no, nigga, I ain't talking about no shit I read on no fairy tale. This ain't no kumbaya message. This is real life. And I'm telling you, if you are in similar circumstances like me, you've been homeless 8 times. All the stuff that I've been talking about. You've been on your own since 13. You got molested and you've been to some religious nut jobs and you've been to all the shit that I've been through. How do you transform your identity, your core essence, that story that you keep telling yourself? If it's a loop that says, nigga, you ain't shit. You're a failure. You're a loser. Nothing you do is going to work. Like, how old are you now? And you still doing this? You might as well give up. You might get that story, that negative habit pattern that just keeps trying to steal your glory. I know because I use the same shit coming to my brain every single day. And I bring every thought into captivity and I see if it is of God. Because I interrupt that negative pattern by pattern recognition that interrupts the pattern. Then I engineer my own pattern and I implement it. I bring every thought into captivity, just like the Bible says. So no, bruh, and no, sis, I don't know. I'm not here. I stand on the word. I make a visible and I make an audio declaration and an affirmation, and I show up fully seen as I am. My visibility serves source, and I'm a light in a dark world. I'm an ambassador of the Most High. I'm not talking about the one in your church, bro. I'm talking about the Most High, the Peru. I'm not talking about the one that's in this world. I'm talking about the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords. I'm talking about the Ethiopian Christ. Because on that level, there is no devil. So that's what's in this system. And what it does is the 3 keys that brings about the transformation. And number 1, there has to be a change in your identity. And I break it down step by step based upon your unconscious negative habit pattern that is exposed when you take the quiz at MT33, Author to Architect. This is an offer for the $5,000 system where you get that component, because that component, which normally sells for $197, is on sale today through the 4th for $99. That is the E inside of the s.p.a.c.e system. Because when you implement it, you got to reverse it. So you start with your energy or that entity. It must be entrepreneurial to create consciousness. The consciousness creates the identity. The authenticity connects you with the psychology or the behavioral modification, which connects you to the spirituality. But you got to learn it by getting in the spirit, so that way you can affect your psychology, so you can establish, again, your authenticity, so that you can maintain your consciousness, so that way it can be expressed through your entity or your energy. That's how we learn it. But then you got to implement it, because faith without works is dead. So everybody learning it, people taking classes, people, you guys have been following me for years, and you've been assimilating all this content. Now it's time to implement it. And the way that you implement it is you got to reverse engineer it. This is not new. I've been saying this for years. But how to reverse engineer it? Number one, you must establish and you must stabilize how you self-identify. That story is stealing your glory, because identity beats effort every time, and action follows identity. So I can tell your identity by your lack of action. So you do not identify as God because you're not taking the actions of a God. Because a God has unlimited energy. God is all-knowing, all-powerful, all-present, all-simple, and all-benevolent. And I can see that you're not benevolent. Because if I say the wrong thing, you piss the fuck off all day. I mean, not you personally, people, you know. So you cannot have the same ideas I got. So people that say, man, I was doing a one-on-one yesterday, and the dude was like, bro, how the fuck you walk around with all this energy, man? You've been up since 6. You've been going, I was doing one-on-ones and classes, doing all this stuff, taking college classes again, going back for another PhD. I'm doing all of this stuff every day. And people my age are retired, playing golf. Not this. Why? Where does my energy come from? Do you guys know that my energy comes from my role? So as I said yesterday, my dopamine is released during the role. My dopamine is not released when I accomplish the goal. And I'll break that down inside the course. That is called obsessed. I'm obsessed. When you are obsessed, bam, you become possessed. Just make sure you are possessed by the spirit of the Most High instead of the spirit of the Most Low. You must be possessed. You must have intrusive thoughts. Your purpose should be running around buck naked in your brain. If not, you are going to experience toxic sin. You're going to wake up and be like, oh, this shit don't work, Doc. I'm ashamed to show up in the marketplace and speak my truth. I'm ashamed of myself. I have no authority in my voice. When I speak, I do not speak as one having authority. I don't speak as a priest because I feel like a peasant. Not you personally, but you know. But why? Because you don't self, not you personally, but you don't self-identify. No. You go, what you think I did for 40 plus years? Identity stabilizes your nervous system regulation, and your nervous system regulation creates the income amplification. There is no income amplification if there is no nervous system regulation. And there is no nervous system regulation if there is no source identity stabilization. So if you do not self-identify, if your self-concept, if your self-image, if you do not let this mind be in you that was also in Christ Jesus, who being in the form of God, did not consider robbery to be equal with God, nigga, you got to go pay in traffic. Why? Because your dog don't hunt. So make sure you pick it up. It's only $99 from the day through the 4th. After that, it goes back to the $197. Or if you really have speed, you're going to take me up on the 50% off between now and the 4th. Program that regularly sells for $5K is on sale for $2.5, and we got 3 monthly payments for that as well. I think it comes out to about $800 or $900 a month for 3 months to get the entire enchilada. I love it, and as you can do about it, go see at the top. God bless.